der Eurozone eingehen.
And I would like to go straight to the central point in the eurozone, and that's the change in exchange rates. Now, of course, a monetary union is okay if everyone is pulling in the same direction and if international competition is developed in the right way. But if you do things differently, then of course any monetary union is going to have problems. It will either fall apart or it will lose its character, its nature. So let me first point you to the difficulty in the eurozone. And that is that we have different developments when it comes to unemployment. So for Germany, for example, we need a stronger euro. For others, the euro is too high, and you can see the consequences here. If you look at the grey figures, that's Germany, and since the year 2000, unemployment in Germany has dropped from 10% to below 5%. But in all other countries, since 2010, unemployment has gone up. And why is that? It's because of the exchange rate. For us, it's too weak. For others, the exchange rate is too strong. And that has an immediate effect on employment and unemployment. So we export goods and we import labor. But the other countries, of course, import goods and export labor. So it's the beggar my neighbor policy from Keynes. And you have this trade-off between imports and the imports of goods and the export of labor, and some benefit, others suffer. But the beggar my neighbor policy is something which the eurozone seems to want, and that's a surprising element there. And on the next slide, I will show you what is happening with foreign trade and the major players. Here, from this graph, you can see that Germany, since the year 2000 up until now, has maintained its share. There's only a drop of minus 2.4%. That's relatively little in terms of a drop, especially if you take into account that there's the emerging markets and China that have gained in importance and influence, and that there are other players. But if you then look at France and Italy too, then those countries have lost 30%. So that means that there's an export of jobs. So a drop from 4.86 to 3.4 in Italy, France 3.7 to 2.58. So this needs to be redressed, and what the European Central Bank is trying to do is to flood these markets and to overcome the issue of unemployment. But there's an economic law with an expansive monetary euro. You can't redress the wrong price. The price needs to correct itself. And with an expansive policy, you can bring interest rates down and therefore make it easier on the budget. You ease the pressure on the budget, but the exchange rate won't be affected by it. And only when interest rates go down, and when countries that have difficulty on the market manage to refinance, you can have reform. Reforms are usually directed at labor markets, structures, and usually these are areas where governments don't want to be active because it costs some votes. But if interest rates drop to zero, then reforms will stop again. And that's what the European Central Bank has now noticed it as well. And the French member on the board of the ECB have said that because countries need to carry out reforms, our policy of reducing interest rates needs to be stronger. So a policy which took us in the wrong direction now, in their view, would have to be stepped up. So it could take us even further down the wrong track. And that doesn't make any economic sense. And my last sentence will be to say that it's interesting to note that American scientists, which were in favor of the euro before, Joseph Stiglitz, Robert Weil, well, they are now saying that it would be better to scale back the eurozone, to go back to how it was many years ago. And I welcome that view from them now. But I look forward to the contributions from the panelists. We'll hear from Peter van Dalen first. Now, all of you have the same allotted time. Please keep to that so we can have a discussion after that. And I will be keeping an eye on the clock. So please keep to that. Peter, you have the floor.